Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. So here today we are going to look at the biological keys, which involves the dichotomous and the polyclave. So to begin with, biological keys, these are simply tools that are used to name organisms. So tools that are used to name organisms are what we call biological keys. So these biological keys are used in identifying. So these are used in identifying, that's number one. Number two, they are used in classifying organisms, and they are also used in naming in general. So now, when we look at these biological keys, they have what we call couplets. So what are couplets? So couplets, so these are a series of it could be questions, it could be a series of questions or statements that have contrasting or mutually exclusive so these are the things that lead to the user in arriving at a specific identification. So let's define our couplets. Now remember, this definition applies if we are referring to couplets, meaning to say there are a lot of statements. I'm going to explain further. So couplets, we have said that these are a series of questions. They could be questions or statements. These statements have what we call contrasting, meaning to say different or mutually exclusive. Mutually exclusive in this case simply means to say both statements cannot be true at the same time. So that is what we mean, mutually exclusive, which leads to the user identifying, or rather the user distinguish between organisms during identification. Like for example, when we look at our dichotomous key, we have something like this. So these are couplets. So this is one couplet, this is another, number two is another couplet. It has got a pair of contrasting or mutually exclusive. So mutually exclusive, meaning to say two statements which cannot be true at the same time. Like an organism cannot have jointed limbs and no jointed limbs. So this is a statement, could be a question or a statement. More than 5 limbs of the joint, but 5 or fewer limbs of the joints, no. So these are what we call couplets. Now each couplet has got what we call a lead. So a lead is one of the options of a couplet. So all these are couplets together, because when you add s, it means to say they are a series of questions. They are a lot. They are a series of questions or statements that are contrasting or mutually exclusive, meaning to say they cannot be true at the same time, that are used to distinguish organisms during identification. So like for example, when we say this is the dichotomous key, which we'll go into details. When we say an organism, for example, has no jointed limbs, the only one is this one, which is the earthworm. So an earthworm does not have an organism, does not have any jointed limbs. Then when we look at more than 5 pairs of limbs, so if you look here, the only one is the centipede, this one. So this one has got many limbs that are joined. So this is what we call a centipede. We are going to come back here when we look at other things. So we can have lead 1, which is saying jointed limbs, lead 2, which is saying no jointed limbs. Know the definition of a lead. So a lead is simply one of the statements of a couplet. So one of the statements of a couplet, you can even see that I have removed S. Why? Because we are looking at one couplet, so one couplet will have more like two options for a dichotomous key. So let's move on to now the types of keys. So when we are looking at the types of keys, we have what we call the dichotomous key. So we have what we call the dichotomous key. This type of a key has got it has two choices. So this one has got two choices per step. So you will have two choices per step if you are referring to a dichotomous key, as I have explained there. Let's just refer back. So this is the dichotomous key. It only has two options. So jointed limbs, that it will tell you a number to go to. If it has jointed limbs, you are going to go to number 2. So you go to number 2. Number 2 says more than 5 pairs of jointed limbs. Then you will be able to identify from these organisms, in which case you are going to say centipede if it has got more than. If you say 5 or fewer pairs of jointed limbs, it means to say go to 3, meaning to say there are many organisms of that, but you have to go now to 3. Number 3, first pair of limbs form the large claw. The only thing that is having the claws are the clubs. So the club, as you can see, it forms the large claw like that. So now when you go no large claws, you are going to go to number 4. When you look at 3 pairs of limbs, the ones that have got 3 pairs of limbs are insects. So in this case, we are going to have the grasshopper or the locust. Then finally, the one that has got 4 pairs of limbs is the arachnids. The arachnids we are looking at are generally spiders. The arachnids have got 4 limbs like that. So that is the dichotomous key. So the dichotomous key has got advantages. Let's look at the advantages of the dichotomous key. You saw how we were able to do the dichotomous key. So the advantage are that it is easy to use. You saw how easy it was. Easy to use, that's number 1. The number 2, it is time saving. It saves time using the dichotomous key, and it is also user friendly. So it is also user friendly, which simply means it is you can easily be able to use and also understand. The disadvantage, as you saw, is that it cannot be able to contain all features. So cannot be able to contain all features of interest. So a dichotomous key cannot have all the features of interest. As you saw, you might just talk about one thing about the organism, but not all the features. So the other disadvantage of this one is that if, for example, you are looking at a tree that sheds its leaves, which we call deciduous trees. So if you are looking at deciduous trees, you might be looking at trees that shed their leaves. They do not have leaves during certain seasons. So now, due to that, the dichotomous key may sometimes, if you are comparing, let's say, between plants, it may rely on features that are not present in a particular. So it may rely on things that are not particular season. Like just as I have mentioned, some trees won't have leaves. Then you can use the dichotomous key for that. Then the other disadvantage is that due to the fact that you may rely on a season and all that, it may not be able to include all potential varieties. So it may not be able to include all the potential varieties of an organism. So let's say you are looking at the our example for so this word is include. Yeah, so it may not rely, we said it may not rely on feature, it may rely, sorry, on features that are not present in a particular season. Like for example that I gave you, we have deciduous trees which shed their leaves during certain seasons. They don't have leaves at that particular time, so you can use that to be able to distinguish that tree. Now, due to the fact that it may rely on season, this is the more reason why the dichotomous key may not include all the potential variations of the species. So moving on, let's look at our polyclave. So the word poly means, so dichotomous, the word di means two. So we have now the polyclave. So the polyclave key, this one has got number one, it is the type of key or a tool, or rather just a type of key that has got many options. It also has multiple entries. So it also have multiple entries, and it is computerized. So it is computerized like that. So let's look at an example. So just as this statement goes, so we have the polyclave key is a multi-access key that is an identification tool that allows the user to choose any observable characteristics in any order to identify an organism. Like for example, if you're looking at fish, then we have body covered with feathers. That's not true, so you will say no, or you do something like this. Then we have the frogs. It is not covered in feathers, you will say no or do this. We have birds, you will say yes. Then we have a snake, you will say no. You go to body covered with scales. Fish is covered with scale. We have snake is also covered with scale, but a bird is not covered with scale. And also we have a frog is not covered with scale. Then this one has legs. Fish doesn't have legs. Then we have the frogs, they have legs. Birds, they have legs. Then the snake does not have legs. They live in water. We have the fish, yes. The frogs, yes. Birds, no. The snake, no. Then when we look at breathes using gills, the fish, yes. Frogs, no. Then we look at birds, they don't. Then when we look at snakes, they don't. The only thing that breathes with gills in this list is fish. Then they lay eggs. Fish lay eggs. Frogs lay eggs. Then we have all these lay eggs like that. So like for example, let's say for example you say suppose the unknown animal has scales, has no legs, does not live in water. So according to what we marked here, we said that fish lives in water. So when we look at fish, it lives in water, so that means it's a no for that answer. The frog has legs, so here it's saying no legs, so frog is not the answer. Snake, it has scales, no legs, and does not live in water. So so the answer is a snake in this case. So that is the polyclave key. It has got multiple choices. So the advantages of this is that it is easy to use, and also it is computerized. So it is computerized. Then we also have, it has all species. So as you can see, it has all species. It has all species. and characteristics of interest. So yeah, so characteristics of interest. So that is those are the advantages. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you would like, subscribe and share for more. See you in the next tutorial.